Hi everyone, this is Laura. I'm going to be covering the sections on societal context, students, and faculty of the Colonial Era chapter. So here's a little bit of historical context before we get into the rest of the chapter. The first colony that was established in the New World was Jamestown, Virginia in 1607. Three markers and characteristics of the colonies and the colonial people were their determined attitudes to be independent from England, the unlimited opportunities afforded them by new and uncharted lands, and their fluctuating religious identities. These opportunities sparked a sharp economic change in the late 1600s. A consequence of this change was population growth. So in the 1700s, there's around 250,000 people settled in the New World, but by the end of the century, there was over 3 million. Settlers, despite wanting their own identity, brought with them the culture of their previous lands. But being so far from their original homes allowed them to develop their own styles of living. So they developed their own culture and their own type of religious exploration. One of the aspects that never really changed, though, when people came to the New World was their belief in religion. That was really all they had in trying to survive in the new and unknown world. So it played a very critical role in their social and cultural lives. In the mid-18th century, the colonies started seeing the influence of the Enlightenment, which brought out radical thinking in the people and affected them primarily in how they saw themselves as a people. But particularly with respect to religion, many contributors of the Enlightenment movement in America saw God not just being the Bible physically, but they also saw God as being in the world around them, and they started seeing God being just outside of the church. It wasn't necessarily that they had to be in church to experience faith or that connection with God. And so it sparked kind of this religious movement, kind of a backlash, known as the Great Awakening. The Great Awakening took place around 1750, and it was characterized mostly by intense, passionate commitment to their faith, as explained by an article from the Library of Congress that's located in the references at the end of this slide. So what that basically means is that instead of people just moseying along religiously like they normally have been and how they used to do things, people actually started flocking back to the church. So they started coming back and started being more devout and more actively religious and just being really faithful to their belief in God and how much control He had over their lives. So just that whole sense of bringing God into their lives and being a lot more religiously involved than they probably would have been or probably have been. So this next section is about the students. Although people were adventurous in agricultural and exploratory endeavors, and being really devout in their religion and their faith, there was really no reason for them to go to college. For the lower class people, their jobs were trade-based. So they were doing farming, they were working with crops, they were working with animals, they were carving, metalwork, things that didn't require any type of actual college education. Any other education really came from the church. So parents would send their sons to the clergyman to learn Latin, math, and English grammar. College was really mostly for the wealthy families who could afford to send their kids to college, but it was mostly for discipline and developing moral and just developing moral character, and the academic side of that was really just to support that growth and being in the fact that it was a very disciplined and rigorous environment. So, because it was controlled by the clergymen, so since they weren't with their parents anymore, it was up to the clergyman to kind of be that parental figure. And student life was similar to their social status, really. It was like a fraternity almost. So whoever your parents were, whatever your social status was, that kind of dictated the social environment in the colleges at that time. And with respect to female students, there really weren't any female students in college. Well, not any. There's completely none. Just because women at the time, they weren't allowed to even be in school. Gender roles were very established during that time. So instead of being in school with the guys, they were at home learning how to cook, learning how to sew, just very stereotypical female duties. So they learned those things from their mothers, and then once they got married, they took direction from their husband. So this last section is about the faculty. While the population had grown, the new and shiny feel of America hadn't really worn off. So institutions established at this time were small. And so they primarily hired tutors. And even then, it was really only a couple of tutors across a couple of decades. The course loads were very unbalanced, so for the few faculty that they did have, they taught all the courses. So they taught the Latin, English grammar, math, philosophy. It's nowhere near the amount of courses that faculty members are expected to teach today. Their other responsibilities included looking after the well-being of the students. Like I mentioned before, when parents sent their children off to colleges, expected that the faculty members would take charge of their overall well-being, so making sure they ate, making sure they exercised, making sure they grew up to be well-respected men of the community. Which is also something that's not really done in the same manner with faculty today. So, despite all their responsibilities, the compensation was pretty terrible. It could have been better. Being a faculty member wasn't really a prestigious profession like it is now, but at the same time, back then it was a whole lot better than being a farmer or just being like middle class or lower class worker. So that's it for this segment of the Colonial American chapter. There are 2 more segments left from my group mates. If you have any questions, let us know, and thanks for watching. I look forward to hearing what you guys have to say and answering any questions if you happen to have them. This page right here is the references. It might be a little bit different from everyone else's, but if you're interested in looking at any of the articles or any of the references, that's this page right here. So thanks for watching. Bye.